Oh my god, did you see National just recorded its lowest opinion poll score since the election? It's sitting on just 25.5%, the lowest level of support the party has had since 2021, and a level so low it would see no list MPs make it back in, including Paul Goldsmith, Jerry Brownlee and Nicola Willis, or that New Zealand First is at the highest level of support it's seen since the 2023 election for some fucked up reason, or that there are now measurable chasms between demographics of who intend to vote left and right, that young women are more likely to vote left and old men are more likely to vote right, and over half the country now think that we're heading in the wrong direction. Or did you hear instead that National has recovered from last month's poll nightmares and that the party and Prime Minister have seen slight improvements in their ratings and that the poll of polls shows an 88% chance of the coalition being returned? Because in the last 24 hours, we've actually seen two different opinion polls released and they have two different outcomes. The one that's not regulated and refuses to adhere to industry standards because they got caught out trying to manipulate respondents into giving answers that they preferred, so decided to leave the regulatory body, which is paid for by a known AstroTurf group, which is funded by unknown sources but do include tobacco companies, and still gets treated like legitimate data by the Herald, Stuff and Radio New Zealand, is one of them, while the other is regulated and has been more historically accurate on big party results than most other polls. This is a great example of what we call agenda setting. Media has the power to set the agendas that we talk about by picking and choosing what we see, even in a world where everyone's on Facebook and TikTok. And choosing which polls to cover is part of that. But this also shows a concerning issue of captured media that we all do need to be concerned with. Our rightest of right-wing mainstream media in the NZME stable have long sucked at the teat of the lobbyists at the Taxpayers Union. But our state broadcaster should know better. This was the group that created a blizzard of fake accounts to overwhelm the Callaghan Innovation Science Agency in 2018, costing taxpayers over $100,000 to respond to requests from non-existent people in an attempt to bog down their operations. They were connected with the tobacco industry fake grassroots campaign to vilify smoke-free laws that pretended to be organised by local dairy owners. They misled people on Three Waters, suggesting asset grabs and using fear-based messaging over complex infrastructure math, which has exacerbated the water reform process and increased the cost for ratepayers. They have used their platform to bully local candidates and now elected members into signing their pointless ratepayers pledge, and even threatened to expel members who didn't do exactly what they were told by the organisation when elected, and have been accused of funding and promoting pink slime news groups, opposing public interest journalism, driven narratives that saw the dropping of the EV rebate, used selective data to imply bloated headcounts at universities, and regularly attacked the use of Te Reo Māori in government as wasteful spending, using it as a wedge issue over a microscopic cost tied to treaty partnership measures. And every month, Radio New Zealand, along with a range of other media, cover their data like it's from an impartial source with no issues. Roy Morgan, though, well, they're not a lobby group, but they are Australian. But all polls have methodology differences and unique elements. That TPU poll asks you about preferred Prime Minister, for example, like we're in a US-style presidential race, but Roy Morgan asks about government confidence. The TPU tends to overestimate the right bloc of parties and their results, while Roy Morgan tends to underestimate the smaller party results when they're both compared to the eventual election results. So the editorial decision makers across media outlets have to choose which narrative to present to you, the public. They decide if it's more important for you to find out about a parody account that featured a government toaster or a poll that puts Nicola Willis out of a job. It decides to frame a poll of polls as prediction tools instead of a mathematical probability tool based on current trends. It's why when I've been doing updates this week on the Election 2026 website, I've made sure the poll aggregate data shows you the trends from across multiple polls over the last 6 months, that you can choose if the data from the Taxpayers Union Curia poll is actually something you're comfortable with including, because the difference between the data with and without the lobby group is actually kind of fascinating. We've also updated the toolkit there. The Policy Picker database tool has been expanded with the latest policy announcements, because despite what Paul Goldsmith claims, other political parties have actually announced policies, and the Aotearoa political ahunga has been extended as well with more policy information. There's also been updates to the fact check page, which now includes facts like Winston Peters is in the Epstein files. But not for that. He's mentioned in relation to the 2017 election results. Or that the reason convicted sexual assaulter and former ACT Party President Tim Jago got name suppression was because of his links to the ACT Party. The one thing I can't emphasize enough here, though, is that none of the polls matter. None of the website updates matter, and none of those media editorial decisions on which poll to platform and which to bury is going to matter if you don't vote. And you are not going to be allowed to do that if your enrollment details are not up to date by October 25 this year. You can check out your details at vote.nz. It's completely free. If you have any issues, there's a phone number there. You can call them as well, and they can help you out with that. So go and check out those details first before you check out weird facts about how Winston's name is spelt on his birth certificate or which opinion polls you're not being told about in the media. Oh, hey there, podcast listeners. Thanks for checking out today's podcast. Whether that's on video or audio, I really appreciate it. And I did finally get around to doing a podcast end tag, which I've been meaning to do for a while instead of just taking you onto the Facebook version. So while you're here, why not hit that subscribe button so that you can get updates coming in directly every time there's a new episode uploaded. Just seems like a really simple way to keep up to date with all of the crazy that's going on. So yeah, give that a shot and I'll talk to you soon.